This comment was left on a video where I'm talking about the fidget and fawn responses that we see usually in social contexts that indicate that a dog is conflicted and highly stressed, although they are often mistaken for overexcitement. So the comment says, "This describes my dog perfectly. How can I resolve this? We do the relaxation protocol and have tried meds to minimal success." So the answer is it depends. In a very nuanced way, it's going to largely depend on the individual. And I'll give some examples of that. Broadly, the goals are the same. So really, in any behavior case, we're working to lower arousal, lower the stress response in regards to the specific trigger. We're looking to increase the ability to self-regulate, and we're looking to increase resilience to stress. I'm going to use here the example of a dog who is displaying a fidget or fawn response to, let's say, visitors coming into the house, because that was the context of the last video. So where this might get nuanced is, so I need to look at the whole picture. I need to see what this individual dog is struggling with, what the other stressors are. So, nothing happens in a vacuum. But then when I zero into the fidget fawn response itself, I need to figure out why the dog is conflicted. Is the dog somewhere where they are like curious and interested, but then worried because once they get up close, people start behaving unpredictably. They move, they talk, they make eye contact. Is the dog, or perhaps, instead it's not that at all. The dog likes people and is comfortable with people, but doesn't want to be touched, and people often touch them. So you can see how in those two different examples, we might approach things very differently. For a dog that's a little fearful and a little curious, I'm going to be working on, in part, counter conditioning. And so teaching the dog through various exercises, some of them, involving counter conditioning, but perhaps also others, that people are a positive thing. I might break that down into different pieces, and really break down that criteria and work on different aspects of what are scary about people individually. I might work on teaching the skill of flight. I might work on social skills through games like Treat Retreat. I might work on, the whole picture of why is this person scary, and build on the curiosity that they have. For the dog that's not scared of people, but is averse to being touched by them in this context, I don't need to do some of that work. I don't necessarily need to change their emotional response to people as much as potentially change their emotional response to handling. I may focus more on agency. In both situations, I'm going to really focus on agency, of course, but I might focus here on ways for the dog to communicate that it is okay to be touched. I'm going to be investigating pain for sure in a dog that's handling sensitive. It's also going to be a matter of like coaching my guest to not touch my dog. So you can see how, depending on the details of the case, we might have broadly the same approach, but in a nuanced way, a very individual approach. Relaxation protocols can be good, and there are a myriad of them out there, some better than others. Some are, called relaxation protocols, but aren't that at all, putting a dog in like a downstay for an extended period of time. Some are going to work better for individual dogs than others, so there's that piece. But doing a relaxation protocol alone doesn't necessarily work to change emotion or build social skills. It doesn't necessarily focus on the ability to self-regulate. It doesn't necessarily build resilience to stress. So it can, in some cases, increase calm behavior, but we have to make sure that the environment is set correctly. We have to look at how it's generalized, or if it is being generalized, and it may not matter as much, if we're not addressing those other pieces. And so while relaxation protocols can be excellent, they are not necessarily the whole picture. And then in regards to behavior meds, a veterinary behaviorist that I've worked with a few times once said, if you are seeing a 50% improvement on the medication, that it is worth sticking with that medication. Now, I think there's probably a lot of nuance to that, so take that with a grain of salt. But I say that to say that it is not unusual to need to do some trial and error with medication. And I certainly, of course, can't know if that's, something that we need to do in the case of this commenter's dog. But it's not at all uncommon to need to do some trial and error, whether that's playing around with dosages, playing around with which medication the dog is on, playing around with using the medication synergistically with other medications or supplements or nutraceuticals. So there can be a lot of pieces there, but I just want to offer that just because like one medication at a specific dose like isn't working does not mean that that meds are not going to be helpful to the dog.